starting the Bobcast week 4 with Sean Brown in 3, 2. Logan Walsh back here on week 4 of the Bobcast with men's basketball head coach Sean Brown Sr. Coach, you had a tough game on Wednesday against Charleston, one of the top teams in this conference, and followed it up with a pretty good game against Concord where the 8-point margin you lost by really didn't reflect you guys throughout the entire game. But what did you make of your past week for your team?
Well, tough week. Starting with Charleston, it was, that was a game that we felt like we could compete in. They played at a pace that, we thought that, we'd be in the game and have a chance to win it at the end. Now they're good. They're a really good team. A lot of these teams and a lot of these conference teams that we're playing, these guys have been together for years. So it's they're a well-oiled machine. They're ready to go. They're already they're hitting the ground running. And we're still trying to figure some things out. We made a lot of mental mistakes, little simple mistakes, things that can be corrected. That quite frankly will be corrected, and hopefully we'll see them again in the tournament.
And I want to go on that Charleston game. In that first 7 minutes against Charleston, you guys really impressed both Matt Ambrose and I on the broadcast with your defensive effort. You go up in the 13th minute, you're up 10-8. What did you guys do so well defensively that allowed you to stay in that game and hung around for a long portion of that game?
Well, we communicated. We felt like we communicated well. We played with a lot more effort, a lot more energy. But there were some things that we went back that we seen on film, game after game that we felt like we could clean up and where we could get better at. I don't know. Defensive effort, team defense got a lot better, and it's shown every game. And we just want to keep improving on that. We lost so much time, so there's some things there's some things that couldn't get taught. That's supposed to get taught at the beginning of the season, and we build on those things throughout the year and keep reinforcing them. But when you come into the season and gotta hit the ground running and kind of figure things out on the fly, it be like that. And we're cleaning some things up and we're getting better every single game, especially defensively. And that's what we got to do. We got to continue to work, continue to drill some things. But we're working. We're work in progress.
You talk about kind of learning on the fly, and it seemed like Charleston did that against you guys in the second half. At one point, it was a 3-point shooting contest, and for the game, the Golden Eagles shot 15 of 32, I believe, from 3-point. And was that down to your guys' defense giving them shots, or they just took contested shots that you kind of have to live with, and they just fell in? Was that a combination of the two?
No, it's part of their game. Well, they have a really strong big kid inside, and their game kind of revolves around him. And you got to show the kids some special attention. And with that said, it leaves you got to give up something. We didn't do a bad job of guarding them, but we definitely didn't do a good job of guarding them. Lamont's a really big kid, and he's a really big, strong, physical kid, and he knows how to play basketball. He has a really high basketball IQ, extremely high. So he requires a lot of attention, and they have players all around him. They transferred in an all-conference guard. They have kids that come up through the system, so they're a very talented team. We want to take nothing away from them, but we had our work cut out for us, and we just didn't quite get it done. I will share this. We kept getting defensive breakdowns late in the second half. Well, I'm not going to say late in the second half. A lot of times in the second half, where our defensive strategies weren't followed to the T, and we had some defensive breakdowns, and we gave them, I'll say, of those 15 3-pointers they made, probably 6 or 7 was from, simple defensive breakdowns. And when we pointed it out on tape, I mean, our guys were just crushed. But that's the way it goes. It just goes like that sometimes.
Yeah, and defensively, one player that kind of stood out to both Matt and I was Bo Sheen. He's led you guys in rebounds in that game, had 8 of them, which matched his season high from the first game against Davis and Elkins. What did he show you? Is he one of your better rebounders on the team? When he's actually now, I looked at the stats, he has grabbed the most rebounds for you guys. Is that what you see as well?
Yes, Bo's aggressive. He's physical. He's not afraid to stick his head in there. And that's why he plays. That's why he plays the minutes he plays. He definitely we're working on getting his IQ, his basketball IQ to match his school IQ. He's got to get smarter. He's got to become a smarter player. Now that Bo's, he's able to consistently get playing time. We're trying to figure out a way to keep him on the court. We want to play him in a way where he's fluid and he's in our offense and in our defense, because he has a lot of effort and a lot of energy, and he's very strong. But now we have to channel that energy to kind of get more production out of Bo. He's willing to put in the work. He stepped up as one of our team leaders this year. Now we need him to turn the corner. But Bo is he's probably our most physical guy right now. He's not afraid to get in there and stick his nose in there and mix it up. And that's why he's playing the minutes that he's playing.
You spoke a little bit about energy, and in that game, Jalen Johnson really had a kind of a breakout game on offense, and he's made that elbow free throw jumper kind of his specialty, where he's not a great 3-point shooter. He doesn't like to take those a lot, but he gives what the defense takes, or excuse me, takes what the defense gives him on offense, and had a nice little game there. 16 points, a season high, was the first game until this past Saturday, where Ajay didn't lead you guys in scoring. What did you see from him that game, where he also added 3 assists and 2 steals, kind of all around?
Well, Jaden's trying to find his way. He's trying to figure out who he is as a player, and we're trying to help him along. Obviously in this progress of growth in the second year. But he missed quite a bit of second semester last year. So he's basically a freshman all over again. So he's trying to figure it all out. He's trying to feel his way through the conference, and and I think the second time through, he'll be a lot more comfortable. And then next year we'll see when he's a true sophomore. I guess a COVID sophomore or a redshirt sophomore, but realistically speaking, he's still a freshman on the court. So we'll see. He does play really hard. He's really quick, really fast. He's competitive. Makes a lot of freshman mistakes, quite frankly. But we understand, and we keep in mind. We remember he's a freshman. He's learning. He's growing. So. That's Jalen. He'll get better. He's getting better. He's willing to learn. He's coachable, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you talk about a lot of the players on this team are really freshmen in the Frostburg way, in that it's their first year playing here, and it's kind of hard to get a group of guys like that who they all played separately in different places and bring them together into the team that you've been building for the past couple of years here, and get them to buy in as well. So it's been impressive so far for having that many new faces come in.
I appreciate it.
And so talk about the Concord game and your best defensive effort on the season in terms of points allowed, and I believe it was a 69-62 game in the end, and was a 64-62 game with 2 minutes remaining, and you guys really in it, and then offensively kind of just shut down the stretch and trying to get back into the game with 3-point shots that just weren't falling. But on the defensive side, what really stood out was you held Concord, who's one of the better 3-point shooting teams, to just 6 of 23 from behind the arc. And what did you guys do defensively that locked you in there?
Oh man, Coach Matt McCullough, he's our young assistant, and he's a local kid. Well, we call him local, Garrett County. Really smart, really smart guy. He started coaching with us some 3 years ago. He coached a semester and then he graduated. He graduated in Frostburg in 2 years, 2.5 years. Went back, and he's been an assistant up at Southern Garrett for about 3 or 4 years. All right. And I'm just going to touch on a little bit about his background. He's been to I think 2 or 3 state championship games, and you know, in small town basketball, they've knocked off some really big time teams. So Matt has been. He's young. Matt's really young. I think he's only like 21 or 22, but he's been in so much basketball. And I met him when he was coaching, actually coaching my son in an AAU event in Ocean City when Matt was like 18 or 19 years old. So he's this is in his blood. So I'd say all that to say Matt drew up a heck of a scout. He spent a lot of time on scouting these guys, and we were ready to go. Coach McCullough had us ready to. Had our guys ready to go. Had them scouted out really well. We put in some really good schemes for that game, and defensively, our guys came out. They were communicating. They were talking. It looked like it kind of looked like some things that we've been working on have actually gotten fixed. And it's aesthetically looking at it, on the film, you could see that. You could see the hard work. You could actually literally see the work. So we corrected a lot of things. That's why second half, it was very tough for them to score. They scored on a lot of what we feel it was touch fouls. They got a lot of free throws in the second half. I mean, their shooting percentage was really low in the second half. Their free throw again, their offensive rebounding was low in the second half. Our pick and roll defense was incredible. And we guarded kids. We closed out on shooters. Now we got hurt a few times, not boxing out, 1 or 2 possessions, and also on those possessions where they got the offensive rebound, they kick it out, find an open guy, and they hurt us a few times there. But outside of scramble plays like that, and what we thought was touch fouls, those guys struggled second half. I mean, we played really good basketball, really good defense in the second half. Offense is going to come, and we've been preaching that to the guys, for the last 2 weeks. The offense is going to come. We just need to worry about, making good habits on defense. That's our main concern right now. And offensively, we sputtered down the stretch. We made some really not so smart decisions. We had some really bad shots. But that's what young teams gelling together do, and we'll bounce back.
You talk about not being able to really find your shot, and Ajay Edwards, really, from our perspective up in the broadcast booth, was really his only poor game this season, where he just struggled to get his shot going. He turned the ball over a couple times, and from us, it looked like Concord was doing a really good job of keeping him in check, and they had a game plan for him, and he was just trying a little bit too hard. Is that what you saw as well, or do you think Ajay was just kind of in his own head that game?
A little bit of both. Concord, I mean, we don't think they play really good defense, so it's tough to say that they shut him down. But hey, they did something because he was frustrated. And a lot of times we tell RJ, just relax. We trying to find that balance between him, being a great team player and really letting the game come to him, and him being aggressive and putting pressure on the defense early and often. So right now we're just trying to find that happy medium. It'll come. RJ's a pretty good player. His basketball IQ is growing. He's watching a lot more film. He's understanding what we want. But as you see down, when we slowed it up and we gave him the ball, we got what we wanted. He missed a few shots, a few that he usually makes. He got to the basket when he wanted to. He was a little banged up. He's been banged up here for the last couple of days. But, Ajay's not making any excuses. He had a pretty bad game, a poor game, and He'll bounce back. I'm certain. We're not worried. We ain't really worried about
Yeah, absolutely. We're
Ajay.
we're not worried about him either. We know what he can do on the basketball court, and it's kind of an outlier game, and it's got to be tough for some guys coming from the community college ranks and jumping up to a Division II program. But he's really impressed this season, and we know that he's going to be better than he was in that game, certainly. Another player that really a secondary breakout game, we'll call it, is Jahar Williams, who had a really good game against West Virginia Wesleyan and has kind of struggled shooting the ball in every other game since. But he was 4 of 8 from behind the arc, and really you can kind of take almost 2 or 3 of those away when he's really forcing the shot there at the end. But what did you see from him, especially on the offensive end, where he's finally getting his open looks that are, we'll call, better shots than sometimes he takes in from almost 25, 30 feet out, and he's a little bit closer to the arc and able to make those more.
Well, Jahar's kind of he's trying to figure us out. He's trying to learn our system. Total disclosure, he started out as a redshirt this year, so he really wasn't expecting to play this year until the NCAA rules changed for the COVID season. So he's mentally had to kind of flip a switch from not, thinking he was going to play all year. He thinking he's going to go 18 months without, without suiting up again. To okay, he in like 3 days you got to decide if you're going to opt out or you're going to play. Obviously, he wanted to play, but still mentally, there's still a switch that you got to flip mentally, and it's tough, especially when these guys, we have 12 teams, and each team we have 15 plus players that's coming in hungry, ready to play, and he's kind of thinking about redshirting. But he's kind of finding his groove a little bit. He's trying to find out, figure us out, just like Ajay is. He's trying to learn the system more and when to get the shots and where to get the shots. He's watching a bunch of film also, so his time will come. We feel like you guys, from the box score, it looked like he had a good game. We still think he had a C-plus game if we really grade his game from last game. He had a C-plus game. We feel like he's taking some huge strides defensively and effort-wise, and that's what we need Jahar to focus his energy defensively. We'll make sure he's ready to go on offense when the time comes. But defensively, we need to he need to focus his energy, a little more energy on defense. As long as he keep making plays on defense, he'll be able to shoot the ball as much as he want. And he did make some really good defensive plays.
And then you talked about him kind of looking better on the box score than he may have been in the actual game. And one player, I think on the reverse side of that, at least from my perspective, was Justin Bailey, who I thought played really excellent defense against a really big team. And you mentioned how well you guys defended the pick and roll in the second half. And I remember looking, and obviously all the attention is on whoever the point guard is having the ball, but on the center, on the roll, Justin, I thought he did a fantastic job against the roller going to the basket, where they had a lot of interior scoring the first half, and that was almost all shut down in the second half.
Yep, Mr. Bailey is hitting his stride, and he's really active. He's really putting in some work, and he wants some playing time. So he did a great job hedging early and often, helping out on that pick and roll. But that's one of the things that we did fix in the second half. That's why it was tough for them to get anything. He actually was the help, and we didn't have anybody helping the helper. So we kind of got that fixed a little bit in the second half. But yeah, Justin has been he's come along for us. He's been putting in extra work. And he's growing more and more every day as a player. He's getting in shape. That's his big thing. He's got to get in better shape, and he has been as the day's been going. But Justin's going to be fine. He's one of the kids who transferred in, and he's given us some really good minutes thus far. He's cracked the starting lineup quite a few times, and we'll see. Hopefully we can keep getting. Hopefully he can keep trending up.
Yeah, and the defense as a whole hopefully can keep trending, and they'll get a big test tomorrow against West Virginia State, one of the best offensive teams in this conference, and feature the conference's leading scorer, who's just ahead of Ajay in that aspect. So what is your guys' plan defensively to try and keep that team in check, where they love to get up and down the court just like you guys do, but they make a lot of their shots as well?
Well, first thing we're going to do, is right before the game we're gonna pray. No, no, no. They're a very talented team, and again, these are guys that played together for the longest time. So we know we have our work cut out for us. Um, Pittman, he's a third year sophomore. Um, the kid you're talking about that averages, I can think he averaged right around 24 points a game. He's a senior for them. They have another kid from Maryland who actually went to my high school. Uh, he's he's averaging right around 13 or 14 points for them. So it's going to be tough. Then they have another big kid who's about 6'7", who's averaging just about 19 and 19 points and 10 rebounds. So then Trayon, the shooter they have, young kid. He not blew our heads off last year. Could really shoot the ball. Only like 5'9" or 5'10". So yes, they're going to be tough, really tough. Um, you know what we're going to do, we're not going to show anyone any special attention. We're going to go in and we're going to play our strategy. We're going to play, do whatever our defensive principles tells us to do, and then we'll adjust from there. But we're going to kind of do what we do and see where we are, see how things work out. But we're not going to go in showing anyone any special attention. Probably Pittman. Pittman's the best player in our league, I think. So we may show him some special attention, but I think when we play it straight up and we play things, we just, you know, we go by what our principles tells us to go by. I think we do a lot better job and staying solid, staying down, not jumping, and closing out under control, hedging with every single pick and roll, or switching every pick and roll, depending on what our principles are telling us for that game. So I think we're gonna just play it straight up and see what we get, see what we got. I think we can compete with these guys. We got a few folks who may have a chance to come back and help us out. We've had a few people banged up because of medical issues and or out because of medical issues and being banged up, and hopefully we may get some help in that regard. So man, we're just gonna go out and we're gonna play our basketball, our style, and we're gonna hope that we get better on this time out.
And talk about being banged up, and you get a nice off day on Saturday coming up right before a 3-game week next week. So we'll hope that some of your players can get healthy and bounce back from that. And we appreciate you taking your time out of your day, coming to talk to us for the Bobcast, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Welcome into week 4 of the Bobcast. Logan Walsh sitting down here with women's basketball head coach CARRIE Saunders. Coach, a bit of a tough week for you guys. A couple of pretty big losses against the number 19 in the country, Charleston, and then against Concord and their star, Riley Fitzwater. What did you make of your past week here?
Yeah, it was another tough week for us, playing two back-to-back really great post players, honestly, with Charleston and then with Riley at Concord. We learned a lot this week, but we're also very short-numbered. This was one of our first weeks that we were really down a few players, so just having that limited rotation really hurt us this week and moving forward. So but we're continuing to learn, continuing to grow, and that's all we can ask.
So I want to start with that Charleston game, and you guys, it's the number 9 team in the country, the best team in the conference. They've beaten their 2 biggest rivals already in Glenville and Notre Dame, and they have the best defense in the league in points per game. So how did you guys try to go into that game to try and attack them when they have a lot of size in there? As you mentioned, Erica Russell, one of the best big players in the country, and then Pinnell, their all-star guard. And how did you attack them?
Yeah, so we had tried to attack matchups, like individual matchups. So we knew that, whoever those two were guarding, we were going to have a hard time getting them buckets. So we tried to attack specific matchups that we thought we could exploit. We just started that game off very slow offensively. We definitely got it together towards the second quarter. But by then, when you're playing a team that good, it's a little too late. But we continued to fight and we continued to play well, and we saw some growth within adjusting on the sideline. drawing things up and going to execute them. So there were some growth in that game. But yeah, we just tried to attack certain matchups from time to time. But with Erica Russell sitting in there, she's one of the best players in the league. So it's a tough matchup. So.
You talked about growth, and one player that I noticed on the broadcast was Kirsten Joseph. Went 4 or 5 from 3 and really showed that game. That was her season high and really showed out. And you said that was a little bit due to the rotation you guys had to use and not having many players. But what did she show you in that game from the offensive end, at least?
Yeah, so we tell her, and the team knows if someone's going to play a zone, she's going to get in. She's by far our best shooter on the roster. She knocks it down consistently, and that's exactly what she did. She's got a really quick release. She can get her shot off when you least expect it. She even surprises me still sometimes, when she gets it off and it goes in. But yeah, that's the most deadly part of her game. And so we know that when she gets an opportunity, in man or zone, she can get her shot off pretty quickly. So yeah, her knocking down 4 of them was a big confidence boost for her.
And then I want to talk about defensively a little bit, and Grace Butera, who's really the only true post player I think left on this roster that's not injured. I thought she actually did a pretty good job against Russell down on the post. Didn't give her many open looks, and obviously Russell's going to get her offensive rebounds. I think she had 20 total for the game, but when she got the ball in the post, I thought you guys did a good job double teaming Grace, especially just man-to-man against her. Did really well. What did you see for that?
Yeah, Grace did a phenomenal. She had an incredible week. She had really 2 tough matchups, and she was kind of thrown into it with her kind of being our lone, if you even want to call her a post player. I mean, she is, but she's really not. She's kind of a kid that we can put in multiple different positions. But Grace has been there for us in this program since the moment she stepped in the door, and she takes on any role that she's asked. She doesn't care what it is. And this week kind of proved just that, between guarding, some of the, probably one of the 2 best post players with the exception of Wheeling's Lily Ritz. But yeah, she did an incredible job. And I think an even better job on Saturday against Riley. So yeah, she had a really great week for us.
And then a little bit in that Charleston game is one thing they did really, really well was get out in transition. And it helps when you have a 6'2" player that can handle the ball like Erica Russell can. But how would you try to limit that team in transition when they're so good and so many good passers and finishers?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. And the biggest thing is communicating, and that's one of our downfalls in transition. We talk about it a lot, is that we've got to talk. In those types of games, you've just got to pick up. It doesn't matter about like your specific matchup. If the ball's in front of you, you've got to stop it. You've got to protect the basket, and you might be stuck on, Erica, who's 6'2", and you might be 5'7", but you've got to do your best in that moment. And that was some of our downfall in that game, is they are a transition team. They're very unselfish in transition as well. And then they've got a shooter that sits around the perimeter. So they've just got a weapon in every single category. So there's a reason why they're ranked so high. They're a very good team.
And then so the next game you go in against Concord with the tallest player, I believe, in the league, in Riley Fitzwater. And I remember in the first half, you guys actually did a good job of getting your open shots. And go back to Grace Butera, hit some jump shots. I learned her first field goals that she made on the season, where the rest of her points had come from free throws. But was that a strategy that you guys used, not to go into the paint a ton and try to use your open jumpers?
Yeah, I said we had to knock down mid-range shots. We weren't going to get all the way into the paint. She sits in the paint. She's going to block your shot. If we got in the paint, we needed to pump fake on her and try and get into her body. And it's just things that we failed to do. But yeah, I mean, part of that game plan, I told Grace, after the very first possession, I said, you need to shoot. Like, you have to shoot. And it's one of the things that for 4 years I've been trying to get her to do. She's just an incredibly unselfish player, but at times she needs to step up and be that person. And that's exactly what she was, especially in the first half. I might have jinxed her at halftime, but she hadn't missed a shot, going into halftime. And she's got to just continue to shoot the ball with that type of confidence. But yeah, I raved about her at halftime and post game, how an incredible job she did. I thought she handled Fitzwater perfectly, exactly the way that we wanted to handle her. She's 6'4", Grace is 5'11" on a good day. And she's going to get hers, but we've got to limit everybody else, and that's where we fell. I told the team that there's one of Grace and that there's 8 of you guys, and you guys failed Grace. Not to sound very harsh, but in a way that's how it broke down. We sucked in and we spent a lot of time defending Fitzwater, but there's a game adjustment where Grace was doing an incredible job, so we adjusted, and we didn't adjust well. Also, Concord's a very tough place to play. They're undefeated at home. We didn't shoot the ball well, so all of that kind of plays into that loss. But yeah, Grace did an incredible job.
You just talked about not really shooting the ball well. You guys didn't make a 3. You're 0 for 11 from behind the arc. Was that due to just some unlucky shots not going in, where you had the open looks, or poor shot selection? A little bit of both. What was going on from there? It's
both. We took 9 threes in the first half. We're not a 3-point shooting team. And they were switching up their defense, going zone, going man, and we settled. In the very beginning, in the first quarter, we were getting good looks. We were moving the ball, shooting mid-range shots, and then all of a sudden we went away from that and we started shooting threes. And if they're not going in, we as a team have to realize that and adjust back. I told them to keep attacking, keep swinging the ball. We were getting layups. I think we beat them in points in the paint. There's no reason to take threes, especially when we're not a good 3-point shooting team. And if they're not in the rhythm of the offense. But yeah, it's a mixture of both, poor shot selection and just going away from what was working. I'm not sure what triggered that, but we also didn't keep up on the defensive side of the floor, and we were trying to let our offense carry us, and we needed to let our defense carry us. And so that was kind of the downfall.
Yeah, I get a little bit of a reprieve for you guys on the offensive end. You're going up against the number 1 defense in the league and then the number 3 defense in the league in the same week. So, understandable that the offense isn't totally going to be there. And then last thing that I had, and Brene Ford, ever since, and I know Kendra, your assistant coach, has kind of mentioned this, but since switching to her number 1, hasn't shot the ball well at all. I think besides the Alderson Broadus game, was, I believe, the second game she made the switch. But do you see it as a combination? And I know you say that she's your best defensive player that you guys have, but offensively, is it just bad shot selection? Is it just not getting the looks that she needs to get?
Yeah, she's young. She's a freshman. She started off the year really hot, and she's in a little downslope right now, and it's just a matter of regrouping her mindset and herself. And believing in herself. I think after that very first game at D&E, where, she came out and she played a little fearless, and we've just got to get her back to that. A little bit of it is shot selection, but we've also played incredibly good teams here down this stretch. For a freshman to go out and face these types of teams and play the minutes that she has, she's growing, and that's all I can ask for. We remind ourselves all the time that this is our second year in Division II. We're playing a lot of young people, and these teams that we're up against, they're well-oiled machines. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's a process that we have to trust ourselves in, and the amount that she's learning and growing this year is invaluable, that she's playing this amount as a freshman, all of our freshmen. Because we're growing this program into a D2 program, we're playing young kids and we're taking, some hits definitely this year, but I have all the faith in the world that this is just going to make them stronger. So, and that's what it is with her. We've just got to, she's got to get back, get herself to the free throw line, see the ball go in, and have that confidence again.
And so talk about getting into a rhythm. Tomorrow you have a pretty big game coming up. It's against West Virginia State, and we know one of the top offenses in the league, where they like to get up and down the floor all the time, and defensively might not always be there, but they're going to get their buckets. So how are you guys planning on attacking them and try to keep them out of scoring their 90-something points a game?
Yeah, it's hard to slow a team down. I think, I was just looking at it. I think they've scored less than 100 points in, 3 or 4 of their games. So it's hard to slow a team like that down. A lot of the times you've got to score with them. But it's taking care of the ball. It's limiting them to one shot. It's breaking their press. There's a lot that goes on to it. And it's also keeping us fresh because, again, our numbers are down and we're playing significantly less people than a lot of the teams that we face. And, coming off of some rest days, hopefully we're ready. We're going to have a good practice today and and prepare for everything that we need to prepare for. But honestly, in this conference, if you go out and you play well and you compete, and whoever plays harder that night has a chance. And so that's what we're looking for. We're home again after a long week on the road, so that's nice as well. But we'll get ready today and practice, and hopefully go out and compete tomorrow.
And I guess for you guys, it's a bit of a reprieve. The powers that be kind of gave you this Saturday off
Yes.
from the schedule when you play against two of the fastest teams in the country
Yeah.
in West Virginia State and Glenville, and sandwiched between them, you get a nice rest. So I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys might be a little bit thankful for that. But
Yeah.
thank you for being here and taking the time out of your morning to come and talk to us, and good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with men's and women's head swimming coach here at Frostburg State, BRYAN Christiansen. And Coach, a pretty tough week against Davis and Elkins, a really good swimming team on both sides. And what did you make of your team this week overall in their performance?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, Logan, as a newer voice on the Bobcast. Those people at home might be used to, my soothing pipes hitting their ears from, past greats like Fielder and Andy and Matt. But welcome to the Bobcat family. Let me first say, I think you have great opinions on, best athletes and tennis players, and a great ranking, which we'll get into all later, I'm sure. But as far as this weekend, Davis and Elkins, it was tough. I mean, they're a team that finished about one notch above us last year, and it was an eye-opening meet. I mean, we got stomped, like we got wrecked, and I think that one message to my team is like, hey, this is where the conference is. Like, this is not the best team in the conference, and I think we have those aspirations. We have in our head, a lot of our kids, they put on their goal sheets. Like, we got some work to do for sure if we want to be competitive in Division III and in this conference. Davis and Elkins, they had some good swims. They had some really fast. They had some guys putting up some really fast times, it was kind of like kids like, oh, they've been training. I'm like, no, they've been kind of out. They trained a little bit more than us. We shut down early November. They were through Thanksgiving, but they've still been off for, I guess about a month and a half for them. We got some work to do for sure. I think we have, and we're still kind of getting in shape, but so are they, and so is every other team. So it's happening. Like the reality is here. So we got some work to do for sure.
Yeah, and you talk about that time off, and that you guys had essentially what was a warm-up meet in a way against Salem last week, and Davis and Elkins, this is their first meet of the year, so it's some of your swimmers might not be able to use that excuse of well, they had more time than us.
Yeah, it's hard, because we really don't. We were getting into, Salem at least had a meet in the winter, and we could kind of like play off them a little bit, although things changed a lot since October. Davis and Elkins, it was kind of hard saying like where the freshmen were, or just like us, who's actually swimming, who might have like opted out, who did what. It's just kind of like really hard to predict things, which I guess makes things kind of fun. We go in and we're like, hey, what's gonna happen? But we definitely had some good surprises, especially on our women's side. I think that we are maybe we're this week and Salem. I think we were winning some races that I didn't think we would, which is really exciting. The men, I think we just need to kind of like, we need to, first of all, we need to get people healthy. We need to get people eligible. Like, I think we have a lot of people missing who, the meet would have gone differently if everyone was ready to go. So we'll keep figuring it out.
Yeah, and you hope that it would have gone differently, and this year it really didn't. It's almost the exact same score against Davis and Elkins as it was last year. Last year was a 170-92 loss, and this year's 171-87. And as swim meets go, I mean, you can't get a ton closer than that in terms of a year-to-year basis. And on the men's side, once again, I mentioned, I know you talked about it last week with Matt, and that Noah Loper, the freshman, continues to impress for you guys. And what have you seen out of him this year in that meet against Davis and Elkins? He won the 500-yard freestyle really impressively in a 5:02. The next closest was your own Miles Henderson behind him, but he had a 5:40, and then also Noah once again winning the 200-yard IM. What's impressed you so far about him?
Yeah, we did a good job. I think, and I remember Dave Nelkins was kind of weak on the distance last year too. So it was nice for us to like know that our distance program is doing well. Um, but yeah, Noah, he works really hard for sure. He's a really determined kid. He can do a lot of different things. We had test sets with every stroke back in September, which feels like 10 years ago now. And he did our breaststroke too because we're down a few breaststrokers, and he was able to hold his own with that. I mean, the Davis and Elkins, they had got to go minute point in a dual meet, which is like really fast. I don't think we had anybody. We'll see people close to that at the end of the year, if not under that, hopefully. But that's a little tough for a dual meet. Noah did a little 104, which is like not his best stroke, which I'll take in a dual meet. He's done really well for sure. The hard part is for him kind of honing in on what he wants to do, because he can do the IM, he can do the 200, he can do the 500, he can do the 400 IM, and he could probably be halfway decent at any stroke he wants to pick too. So right now we kind of have him in like the middle distance, and our IM groups kind of working like that. But he's done really well for us.
And then another swimmer I want to focus on is Miles Henderson, who won the 1,000-yard free and then came in second place to his teammate, obviously, and Noah. And Miles is really impressed in those distance swims. And you said D&E was a little bit weak in that area. And what have you seen from Miles both in that meet on Saturday and then maybe the rest of the season as well?
I mean, Miles is working really hard, and he was kind of upset at himself for the times. I mean, he got the win, but his times weren't really where he wanted to be, which is kind of a weird zone to be in when he's kind of like upset. I mean, because it is about winning, but swimming is also a lot about getting the time that you want, and it doesn't totally matter if you win by. I'm trying to think what he won his 1,000 by. He won by. It was a handed. It was 15 or 20 seconds, I think. It was at least by like a lap. But he just wasn't where he wanted to be. So, I mean, he's working hard. I think that we just need to get in shape. It's especially hard with like our distance people. You just don't see it for so long until like you taper and you drop like a minute in your mile. So it's the process. It's the long game. And I mean, I think he's done well. Miles, if you're out there, I do think you've done well. I don't think Miles thinks he's doing well. I think you're just fine right now. We just gotta keep doing what we're doing, and it'll happen.
It's usually the case that, especially in the individual sports such as swimming and tennis and these other sports, as we mentioned a little bit about earlier, of how good athletes they are compared to some of the team sport athletes, but they're usually harder than themselves than usually their coaches or their teammates are, and it's an interesting thing with your sport.
It's just tough. You can't hide behind like. If you're a wide receiver and you run a perfect route and, like, the quarterback just overthrows you, you've done everything that you could do, and you can say, oh, it was somebody else. But swimming, it's like it's your race. You are completely responsible and in charge of how you do in that race. And that's tough. I think some people really like that pressure. I think that's what draws people to individual sports more than, like, you actually had a big talk about this in back in October at the team about why people swim, and I think if we want to really get into psychology, it's we're a little bit more individualistic. We're a little bit more living on the edge. We want to be both dependent on, or to not have people depend on us. That's why we try to there's always this tension because it still is a team sport, and your times convert to points and go into everything, but. It's a weird zone where you can't rely on anybody to either prop you up or screw you up.
And then finishing up on the men's side, and another freshman that's impressed, at least in that meet, was Matthew Rotman, who got the second place in that 1,000-yard free, and haven't seen a lot of him in the past two meets, but what have you seen? You practice with him every day, and you've obviously seen a little bit more than both Matt and I have, but what have you seen from him?
I was excited about that. He came in without a ton of distance background, but I was really want to push him to do more of that distance stuff, and he's kind of receded from that and trying to go into more like IM or backstroke, which we also need IMers, so that's a good role for him too. But he's still kind of been in that zone, so I kind of threw him in the 1,000. He did really well. He came out and I told him, "You're making a hard case for yourself to not be a distance person, but if he doesn't like it, it's hard to inspire that passion, especially with a 10-minute race, But no, he's done well. I think he brings a tremendous amount of spirit to this team, which is great. I think that it's nice to have that energy coming from a freshman. But he carries himself well, and he's another guy that's going to do a lot of things and has done a lot of things throughout the year, and we kind of put him in a lot of different things, and I think he's done well.
And so we switch over to the women's side, and the women really impressed me. And I looked at the D&E meet last year compared to this year, and last year was a complete and utter blowout. It was 186 to 67, and this year you really closed the gap a lot of 158 to 100. And as we'll get into a couple minutes, I'm sure, is that it could have been even better than that. But what was the year-over-year difference from you guys between last year and this year for that?
I think that last year was just tough. 2 years ago, we graduated. The school record holder, 100 butterflyer, the school record holder, 100 backstroker, the school record holder, 100 breaststroker. Those three women paired up with four different freestylers and made every single school record in the medley relay. We lost all of them, and we really were in essentially a rebuilding year. I think that that team did really well last year, but we were definitely small. We definitely lacked some of the pieces that we needed to. We also lost our best distance swimmer. It was literally every possible top swimmer had kind of either graduated or we lost some people due to injury. And so last year it was just kind of a tough year. We were definitely scraping together what we could. I think it was West Virginia Wesleyan. We brought 8 women. We were just really down. So I've been really excited this year. We've just kind of had almost everyone from last year, first of all, stayed on, which is good. I think we really have been really good with our retention. And then in addition to that, we've been able to have the big freshman class to really fill in some pieces and replace the flyer. Sprinter, Summer, I'm sure we'll talk about, has done some great in distance. But it's taken a while for us to fill those gaps, and I think we're finally doing it, and it's really exciting.
You just mentioned Summer Mastandria and that 1,000-yard free that she won, and you mentioned losing some of your best distance swimmers in recent years, and Summer coming in and pulling that one out. And what's impressed her so far from you?
Summer is another person who that was her first 1,000 ever. She's really good in the 200, 500 high school. She's never done 1,000, never done the mile, and she came in. I'm like, you're doing the mile. You're going to be really, really good. And no, she did. I was really impressed with that 1,000. I think she's kind of the same as Miles, where I don't know if she liked the time that much, but we need to kind of just kind of know that process is still ongoing. So we're getting the points, which is good. It's good to know where you're on the conference right now, especially distance-wise. And just kind of it's really hard to trust that the drops will come, especially sort of first ever 1,000 she's figuring out. Usually by this time of year we have we swim all fall. We've done that race 3 or 4 times, and it takes that time to kind of figure some of these things out. So we're in that crunch for sure.
It's talked a little bit about getting points, and she almost could have added to her point total, and she lost the 200-yard IM by just 0.4 seconds, and one of several close losses for your women. And how stressful is it as a coach to see some of your swimmers either when they're in their close race and either losing by that small margin or even winning by that small margin?
Yeah, the touch-out battle is always tough. I think we went 1-4. We had who is it? Brady Peterson got the touch-out in one of his races, and then Francesca lost one, I think, the backstroke in the summer, and then Callie. So, obviously we try to be on the better side of that. If we can be 500 or better on the touch-out battle, that's the goal. Obviously they're going to win some. We're going to win some. IM, I'm not too worried about it. Summer's really not an IMer. We threw her in that and the 200 backstroke to try to play around with some different events, because we're thinking about, she could do the 200. I don't know. She'll probably do the 200, 500,000, maybe the mile at conference. But we're kind of looking at like another event, another stroke event, because all she really does is freestyle. But I think she has the potential at that backstroke, at the IM, other things, because she's a good swimmer and a great athlete. So, I guess in that particular race, I wasn't that worried because I'm like, hey, we just put you in this for fun because we just, we got to figure this out. But touchouts, winning is always a nice added bonus, but not too stressed about that. But yeah, it's kind of like, if I can equate the listeners out there to, a sport people actually watch, like football, basketball, it's kind of like, how many offensive rebounds can you get? Or like even winning the penalty battle, how many bad yards are you giving up? 70, 80 yards through penalties. I mean, that's real yards. And I think that's, the touch-up battle is like that, where it's like, hey, we're not going to get everything. We're not going to have a penalty-free game, but let's beat the other team at this, and then that'll give us the best chance to win.
And hopefully no little heart attacks like we saw in 2008. I certainly remember of Michael Phelps beating out Marin Cavich in I believe it was the 100 butterfly by .01 seconds, and about as close as you can get.
Your swimming history here, whipping that. That's great. That's the worst ever because he finished the way you're not supposed to finish butterfly, and everyone does it, because he took that half stroke. But whatever, weird timing. It's all good.
And then I was just a side note in the same Olympics with the 400 medley relay and Jason Lezak coming from way behind against the French national team and winning a touch out there as well. Yeah. And just really, really impressive swimming feats overall.
That 400 free relay, that was like, I think, one of the greatest athletic performances of all time, of any sport, of any human. Jason Lezak, the U.S. Olympic relay specialist, still the fastest relay split in history. So.
Yeah, and I believe he was going up against the French swimmer. I can't remember his name, but he was one of the best 100-yard freestyles in the world as well. And
Elaine Bernard, who had just done very well in the event.
So we get back to the women's side here, and Callie Kobagier, which we mentioned is one of those close losses in the 200-yard breaststroke, lost by just 0.3 seconds, which was the closest result of any of them that day, and also won the 100-yard breast. So she's a specialty kind of swimmer for you guys, I guess, at this point of that breaststroke is really making her own.
Yeah, Callie came from kind of a limited high school background, and she's just done really well for us. That was lifetime best in the 100 that she had done, and she had never done a 200 breaststroke. 200 breast is like it is a high school event. That was Callie's kind of, she didn't do. She swam club for like a year. She never got too into it. So a lot of our club swimmers have experience with those longer events and stuff. So she was pretty nervous, and it was the first time doing it. So. I mean, it was a well-swum race. I think we've talked a little bit about her finish because the 200 breaststroke is like the slowest paced race. I mean, like literally the slowest average stroke rate, or cycle rate, I should say. And she did probably like 3 strokes, 3 of the fastest strokes in between the flags, just like completely chopping up. It's like counterintuitive, like, okay, you need to actually like go long as you're getting more tired, longer as you get tired instead of like chopping up shorter, which, she just chopped up at the end of her race. And she had been ahead even coming off the wall. And I think, she was in the A position, maybe a position that she's not used to too much, doing events she'd never done before. And it was a great learning experience. Like, hey, when you're in this position in the future, just, stay long, stay in control, trust yourself and finish well. But so it was another. I wasn't even mad at all. I really didn't have a lot of expectations. Just wanted to kind of get her experience because it's another event that she'll probably do at the conference meet. And she just had a really, really good 100 breast. And she's more of a sprinter anyway. So I thought that was a really good race, and it was just a good experience for her. And it's easy when you've had a good meet. I don't even want to call it a bad race. One maybe weird finish is not going to ruin your day, and so I was pretty excited about that.
And you think that chopping up, and you said it's her first time doing the 200-yard breast. Was it just a little bit of stamina loss, and she didn't have enough energy, or she just got in her own head of trying to do too much at one time, or a little mixture of both?
Probably a little mix of both. I mean, the stamina loss is probably there, but also just because it's going to be there for, I mean, at the end of any 200 race, it's like a really difficult race. But, it's just having the experience of like someone who's done that race a few times knows what to do when their body feels like that. Because your body is going to feel like that no matter what. And so it's just learning. And I think she'll be really good at that at conference. I mean, that was a great swim. I was really impressed with her.
And so I want to talk a little bit. Aubrey Morris won the 100-yard butterfly, was the only swimmer on either side for our Bobcats to win in the fly. And do you think that she's one of your better swimmers in that specific stroke?
Yeah, absolutely. She's been kind of battling Liz Perry, who's a freshman. They've been kind of close in practice. I think Aubrey her fly looks really good this year. I'm really excited about that race for sure. She just struggled a little bit, and to have to finish that race, I think was really good for her. She didn't even know she won. She was like just trying to. I was like, you won it. She's like, what? She was just kind of very nervous about it. She hasn't swum it. It's one of her best races. She hasn't done it in, let's call it 50 weeks. Almost a year. It's tough. It's it can be scary because you care about it so much and you want to succeed. But she's done really well. We will kind of see. It's an interesting competition that's coming out. I think Liz came on. This is my big test to see if anyone actually listens. Liz came on, I think, with some better times, but Aubrey, I think, is really catching her and been really, really close in practice. So we will kind of see who ends up being the flyer in that. I kind of guarantee in our medley relay, whichever one of those women isn't the flyer will probably be like our freestyler. I mean, because they're both very talented in both the freestyle as well.
And so you talked a little bit about Liz Perry there, and in the 100-yard freestyle, she lost by just 0.6 seconds, which can feel like an eternity in that race with not as fast pace as the 50, but certainly much more fast pace than a lot of the other races. But what has impressed her about you in the freestyle? And you spoke a little bit about her fly, but what in the free has she shown you?
I mean, she's our best freestyler for sure. She is our fastest sprinter. Kind of the same mentality you can kind of see across the team. She just doesn't really like where she's at right now. And I'm like, yeah, your swimming has been super weird for like the past year. It's okay. We talked a lot about like, all right, if you're not feeling well, it's kind of like stuff sitting there and pounding about it. Let's kind of think about why. What can I do better? What did I eat? How did I sleep? How have I been training? How did I prepare? Where is my mentality at? And then you do. If you don't like how you feel, you gotta do something about it. And so I think with her, it was just getting her turnover up a little bit on the 50 and 100. I think that's just kind of like being in shape. Again, getting used to those races. I mean, she's basically been swimming for like a week because she came back a little bit later in our return. So, it's tough. It's really, really hard. Like I was saying at the beginning of the call, we kind of have all this pressure in our conference, and we got our butts kicked by a team that's not the top team in the conference. So we need to, and I have some pretty high expectations about that. But we also need to balance the fact that in reality, we haven't been swimming that much. In reality, we do not have a lot of meet experience, and this is a process that's going to take some time. So it's really hard. We need to kind of adjust our expectations of ourselves, but not so much that we become complacent or satisfied with doing a poor job. It's a tough thing to navigate. If anyone out there knows how to navigate that, my email is bcchristiansen@frostburg.edu.
I'm sure.
Drop me a line.
Hopefully, someone will reach out and give you some advice. And I'm sure any coach in this COVID pandemic-ridden world would want that advice and how to motivate their team and find that right balance in what are some really confusing times for all athletes.
It's tough.
And so as we wrap up, kind of on the women's side, and finally a win in the relay in the second to last race of the meet and the 200 free with Francesca Cravasarat. Liz Perry, Aubrey Morris, and Riley Petrick, who's first time we're mentioning her today, as well as Francesca. So what did that team show you in that final race to where the meet result was pretty much gone, but they still went out and they got their result for themselves?
I was really excited about that, and this is one thing I told the team. I was really proud of our women's team that last week the meet was pretty much in hand in our favor. But we raced really hard anyway, and I was like, hey, that's really good to like still be trying, like when the meet is kind of still over. This week was very much the other way. We weren't going to win the meet if we won the last relay, but our girls they went all out, and it was. And to me, that's kind of like the point. That's the point of swimming, right? Is like no matter what, you're going to try really hard, and then to me, that's the point of like, life. That no matter what, you're going to give it your all, and when things are going well for you, things are going bad for you, it doesn't matter. You're going to still try as hard as you can. So we've done that 2 weeks in a row. We won that last relay 2 weeks in a row. A relay that didn't really matter. And to me, I've just been really impressed with the character of our women's team that we threw down for those 2 weeks. And hopefully we're going to get to a meet. I know we will, where that relay does matter. It's going to matter a lot, and we're going to need to win it. It's going to be a close race. And if we have that mentality, then we're going to be okay. So I was really thrilled by that, and that was a big talking point in our like meet debrief afterwards.
Yeah, it can only be a positive when you always go all out, regardless of the result. And one thing that certainly in an individual sport like this, and very important for athletes to have. And
yeah,
you get a week off next week, and I'm sure you use that to get healthy and get some better ideas of where you want swimmers to be before traveling on the road again to Fairmont State on February 20th.
Yeah, a couple weeks off. It's good to get some Saturday practices. I think Saturdays are nice. It's like kind of relaxed. People aren't stressed with class, and I feel like we never have enough during the season. Mostly because the fall is it's always something going on in the fall. Whether we have meets or homecoming or like a fall break or whatever. But so it's nice to kind of like be able to dial in and really really beat them up on some of these Saturdays. We're gonna have a fun time doing that stuff. So it'll be good.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to this new voice on the Bobcast, and
absolutely
hopefully did you proud like Fielder and Andy and Matt have all done in the past.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like some movie references. I remember talking to Fielder about like Fitzcarraldo and like Werner Herzog and stuff. We can trying to think what I watched the other day. I watched I've been doing like deep cut Mel Brooks movies. I watched Life Stinks. You ever see it?
I don't think I've ever seen a Mel Brooks. I'm not a huge movie buff, but I've certainly seen my fair share. I was just yesterday, I think I finished my 4th watch through of the Shawshank Redemption. That's one of my favorites of all time.
Nice. That was always a classic. Played on TNT like 24 hours a day, I think. It was a good movie. I would go watch it. It was a critical and commercial flop. From 1991.
Not a resounding endorsement there.
I dug it. It was not a parody. It was super weird. It was a super weird move. Nobody liked it, but I liked it. I watched that last night. Probably because I was depressed. This pandemic sucks, man. Like, this is just... that was fun, but we'll keep it rolling. For all you people out there, a shout out to my fiancée Sarah and her cat Missy, the 2 most important people in my life. And as always, go black and red. Go Bobcats.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the listeners for tuning in.